Welcome back. We're here once again with some more Prime Cutz, and this time we've got Final Recall, also known as The Recall, from director Mario Borelli. It does really promote having Wesley Snipes in it, but it's one of those classics where the big name star is kind of only really in it for about 10-15 minutes. Um, we open up with some astronauts in space as something ominous approaches. And then we cut to our cast of characters who are off for a weekend away in a cabin. Very much the kind of classic slasher movie setup, including the kind of rustic rural gas station slash shop. One of our characters is a photographer, so he goes off to take some shots and, of course, encounters the good old weird local, who this time is indeed played by Wesley Snipes. And it is Snipes doing his classic kind of slightly manic shtick that he does quite well. There's a bit of confusion here as you sort of get in these kind of horror film slasher scenarios, and then the kids are off. And they arrive at the sort of holiday cabin that they're staying in, and we kind of spend a bit of time getting to know our cast of characters, who's with who. Some of them go into the woods and find a spooky old cabin, which of course, obviously, the first thing you do when you find a spooky cabin is immediately go into it uninvited and start prodding around at all the things inside, which in this case includes an old radio, which will become a plot point a bit later, and they soon realise that they're in Wesley Snipes' cabin, and obviously that spooks them, particularly when he returns and they sneak out the back way, but he is suspicious that somebody's been in there and goes to follow them. So far it's kind of leaning into being a horror film almost. It's kind of setting up a slightly Deliverance feel, but we get some spooky clouds and then the emergence of a spaceship, as we cut to a military bunker, and we have a little kind of exposition dump scene where these kind of military figures are talking to this former alien abductee, and it's revealed that abductees kind of get powers and this kind of tattoo scarring. One of the characters, this lad here, has had some trauma in his past, which is what being discussed, and then we get some kind of people being hypnotized by what's going on outside, so we're getting little touches of things like third encounters or Skyline, when that kind of thing happened. Feeling spooked, one of the guys goes out to get his gun, and as he comes back into the cabin he spies something in the woods. So everybody now is kind of freaking out. There's some strange kind of creatures floating around inside as Wesley Snipes watches on from the outside. This is very much like that Skyline movie. The guy in the red shirt manages to accidentally shoot this girl, and everybody starts to run outside looking for help, and then the abductions begin, and everybody's off running. So some of the cinematography is pretty cool in this, has to be said. Our surviving characters encounter Wesley Snipes' hunter character in the woods, who's managed to capture one of the aliens, and we get another kind of bit of exposition here as we find out that Snipes used to be a pilot and an astronaut, and he was abducted previously and has got one of these kind of tattoos now, and he's gone a bit mad. The aliens sort of get into and attack the cabin. So we get some kind of War of the Worlds style bits going on here, and eventually as the characters run out, they are actually abducted up into one of the sources. And then we cut to a kind of a sequence that happens inside one of the spaceships. So we're now kind of bending in some kind of body horror bits, as well as we see, the cast of characters kind of trapped in various odd-looking machines, and bits of their bodies is being kind of detached and removed. And the character who's kind of woken up is trying to get everybody out in an escape. But they actually do fail to escape, are recaptured, but then wake up sort of seemingly the next day in the woods. I love how the aliens have folded the clothes for them. That's very kind. The girl who had died from the gunshot wound is back alive. There is a quarantine that's been put into effect around the area as the government is trying to detain all the people who've been caught by the aliens. So our characters encounter this kind of roadblock where things sort of fairly quickly escalate once the sort of lawmen and military guys realise that these teens have been sort of taken up by the aliens and returned. So gunfight ensues. A number of the characters are kind of taken down, but then we start to get the reveal that they've got kind of powers. Wesley Snipes helps out from the woods, but kind of wordlessly just disappears, and that's his part over. And then our heroes kind of move off into the woods. The ones that have been fatally shot heal and wake back up again. And we actually finish on the "there is a storm coming" line, which I can't believe anybody uses after Terminator made it such a thing. The film overall, it's quite enjoyable as you watch it, but it's one of those ones that you will pretty much forget about half an hour later after you watched it. It looks quite good. Like I say, it's one of these kind of classic straight to, I guess, video on demand now instead of DVD, where the big star is kind of only really partially in it, but is promoted as being like the star of the film. It's got some interesting ideas, kind of mashing up that kind of horror beginning with the alien abduction stuff. Yeah, it's okay. This one, this will kill 90 minutes for you. Join us again next time as we continue to dig for some more gems in the piles, and we'll see you soon.